Welcome to STO Building Group Innovation Series, the Expo Series. We're here today with Andrew Zukoski from Join. So Andrew, thanks for coming. We really enjoy having you here. It's been quite a journey, I think, for us together, and probably longer for you. So I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about what was the opportunity that you saw in the industry from your point of view, and how did you go about solving for that?
Yeah, great question. It's funny, we started in a very different place. And one thing to keep in mind is that I and the rest of the founding team don't actually come from industry. We've been in technology companies that have served the industry for a number of years. And as we were getting joined together, we thought there were opportunities for technology to move forward what we call project outcomes, like the actual quality of the built environment and the lives and businesses of everyone that contributes to that. But we started in a very different place. We started thinking that what we needed was a better version of Revit, and we needed better design technology. And we were building things and shipping things, and we have a bunch of patents from back then. But fortunately, we were talking to people as we did that, and talking to architects, talking to owners, talking to general contractors, talking to trade contractors, talking to building product manufacturers, just sort of everyone in the ecosystem that delivers the built environment. And this led us to a lot of people pointing to the OAC meeting, like the owner architect contractor meeting, as a particularly critical crucible for a project, and a place where there was both a lot of pain associated with it, just with things that go wrong. The stories about miscommunications with owners and them just losing it, just these intensely painful things. People sweating bullets going into these things, not sleeping for weeks because they need to prepare reports in ways that these other stakeholders will understand. And we heard that and said, okay, this is interesting. There's more and more of this true owner, architect, contractor collaboration happening with the shift to CM models and design build models. Doesn't seem like there's good technology here. And we said, okay, we think this is an opportunity for us. And that turned into spending a lot of time with pre-construction teams around the country. So our team's mostly on the West Coast. We were with a number of folks on the West Coast. We got connected in with latent construction early, and we don't come from industry, and so it isn't I think a lot of industry startups, it's someone from industry who felt a pain point when they were in industry and they built technology to solve it, and it's this amazing, beautiful story. We had to get really good at listening. We had to get really good at that, and we listened to these pre-construction teams about what would deliver value to them, what would improve particularly the owner experience and that collaboration with the owner and the design team stakeholders from sort of earliest phases of design through GMP and beyond.
So interestingly enough, right, a good pre-con team is a good listener. So listening to the client is a really good and important thing to do to do pre-con effectively, from a construction point of view, from a design point of view, and from a team point of view. And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is it's not that we are not able or we don't have the skill set to do all the things that are necessary to set up a job properly, but there's a lot of moving parts and pieces in the decision-making process at the beginning. And what I don't think we're very good at is communicating that well and visualizing it. So a lot of things happen, as you know, which is a client will say, hey, what happens if we change, carpet to terrazzo? What does that mean? And sometimes it's just, oh, well, this is what the cost could be. Well, there's the cost, there's a schedule impact as well,
yep.
Right? And then what are the other details of connecting down to the floor to terrazzo versus what it would be? And then what's the maintenance afterwards? So there's this whole thing of they ask a simple question, they think it's a simple answer. We know there's complications back and forth with it, but we don't necessarily communicate that very, very well. And then all of those things going through the process and the timeline of pre-construction, there are so many of those. And when you keep pulling different levers back and forth, what does that mean at the end of the day? And I think what we really love about your product is that it helps visualize that, but then also helps memorialize that as well. So talk a little bit more about that and how you got to that point.
Yeah, it's a great question. We heard there are a couple of stories that made us focus in on sort of the decision as the unit. A lot of this was around communication and understanding, as well as just the tracking and trending. And so I'll do one specific one, and then I'll just share something on sort of trends we see for decision making as a whole. The story I'm thinking of, I was sitting with an owners rep, and he described, they're working on a project. It was mixed use, somewhere in the Bay Area, concrete structure. They were over budget. Surprise! They're sitting around and said, "Hey, what can we do? It's pretty late. We really gotta do something, but we can't shift the program." So we said, "Okay, we'll lower the floor to floor height." Like, you won't be able to rent for quite as much, but we'll save money in structure, we'll save money in skin. It's okay, right? And they said, yeah, okay, you can price the concrete and like you can price the glass. Okay, we're good to go. They didn't ask the electrical engineer. They didn't ask the mechanical engineer. They called back later and first say like, hey, you're gonna have to pay a lot more for us to redesign this because you moved everything that all our systems connect to. And the mechanical engineer called and said, hey, it's not as much space for our components. We have to use more expensive components. So you end up in a situation where you get a worse project out.
That's right.
It's like 100, the building's gonna last 100 years and the ceilings are all gonna be 12 inches lower and it will have cost more to deliver because there wasn't good visibility into these decisions that were on the table. There were people who had pieces of the puzzle that were appropriate for that decision, but they couldn't see it.
It's a great example.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the need to communicate it. One of the things we observed is like, coming in and really trying to wrap our heads around these problems of pre-construction was that it's a diverse team that comes together for every project. It's a new owner, it's a new design partner, it's a new trade partner.
And at different points in time.
Yeah, and they're always coming on and off, and they each speak a different language, actually. The owner is like very programmatic, like, and general contractors, you're speaking to cost. Like, where's cost? Like early on, it might be by system, and then by like CSI division, and then it's actually by bid package. And so the need to be able to take this information and trend it, but then also reflect it in a way that like you, the owner, or you, the architect, will actually understand and be able to reason with and get confident with is this, that's an area that technology can help with. Like really easy to quickly and cleanly pivot data that you're confident is up to the minute correct and is memorialized that the owner or whoever's making the decision can't come back and try to rewrite history.
It's not even a matter of that. It's not saying, hey, we got you, because like, we're trying to put somebody in the position of, well, you said this or you said that. But it really brings back the fact that a lot of these things happen so quick. Right? That you forget, literally, what did I do? So you can go back into the past, into the process of looking at that. You can see, well, where was I, and then how did things change from there? It's like every time you take another step, something is going to change, and then also communicating to the client. They have clients internally that they're working for. Right. So the people who we're dealing with around the table are usually representing the business, and the business has different needs, and they have to understand what those needs are. And there are things that they're not going to do till the last minute. Usually the technology doesn't happen till the last minute. So all of these parts and pieces fitting in that puzzle together along that chain of what is happening is so important, that the fact is that when we are around that OAC meeting, there's an intense focus, an intense concentration, and we're all like, we are there for the client. But quite honestly, the client is there for whatever it is, the half hour, the hour that we're there, and then they go back and do their day job, which is dealing with the clients that they have to deal with. So it's like, we are arming that client that we see day to day with as much information as we can give them in order to get the decisions from their leadership.
So it's like an education problem. A huge amount of construction is an education problem. It's like, not like you understand construction math and construction costs. You've got to get this representative from the client, not only so that they understand it, but they can represent it out to like other internal stakeholders that they might have to deliver bad news to. Like,
and that's why it's like, not coming from the industry is not, I don't look at that as a weakness at all. And I think, we've met a lot of people in your team, and we think you have a really strong team. And that's like one of the things that we really look towards. It's like, yes, we are on the same level playing field of, yes, that is a problem, or that's an opportunity that we need to fix or make better. And we think that the technology where it stands today is really good. The platform is nice. But what about the team? Is the team going to be able to grow and take input from the industry now? So now, maybe not part of the industry at the beginning, listening to everything, and now what's going to happen as it starts being used, because it is a collaborative platform. So you're not going to just hear from us, you're going to hear from the architect, the engineer, and hopefully the client as well. So tell me, like, that part of the journey is actually another separate track. So tell me a little bit about that, and like, what were some of like the milestone successes along your journey to say, hey, all right, this is great. We've nailed that one. We can say that's a success, and now we're going to move to the next thing.
I think you look at like a technology company coming together, and there's like some externally visible milestones. Like one, like, do you have a product? Is someone using the product? And so like that one happened faster than we thought. We shipped the first version of the product the week before Thanksgiving. We're like, it's great, we're shutting down the company, we get to go take a week off. And like Tuesday before Thanksgiving, someone's like, I got an OAC meeting. Like on Wednesday, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna push on this. And like, of course, he broke everything because it was like the first time anyone had like pushed on the product. That was good. That was actually San Jose State University Integrated Science Building. It was one of the first projects. that ended up running to completion with joint. It didn't open for another 4 years because that's sort of the nature of construction. But that was like when we were able to get to that team and like talk to the pre-construction team from the general contractor who was working on that job and hear from them and just like see their body relax when they were talking about what to let them do with the client, that it like we were very confident at that point that it wasn't this abstract problem that we were solving. It was like that it actually connected, like we can like point to like the thing in someone's life that we made just like vastly better. And that was a big milestone for us, confirming like that we were onto something real. Then after that, it starts to be a lot of like, you worry sometimes like, oh, you're building only for like crazy West Coast collaborative, like pre-construction. Like, and so there's, we were working to make sure we had diversity of clients sort of throughout the country and then by project type. And so there were a series of milestones, just nailing healthcare, nailing multifamily. So sort of like more merchant developer stuff rather than like, you think of construction technology, you think of like $1 billion hospital with like a target value delivery process and like lots of money to throw around for technology and people. And it's interesting. It's so interesting. Like that's true. And they're on these big iconic projects. Like there are complex problems that the OAC team has to come together and work through. And on commodity developer-led construction projects that like aren't going to be written up in any magazines, they're complicated problems that the owner, the architect, and the contractor have to come together to work on. And for both of those teams, it's still the most important project they're working on that day, and the thing that's going to like take their career to the next step, or not. And so starting to feel that from a wider set of teams around the country and like in different project sectors.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's really important. And I've been on that end a lot. I mean, I did come through the construction business. So sitting in those meetings, sometimes they're very painful. Not because let's just say we had, like I said before, lack of information and lack of skill. It's sometimes we just take for granted that we know what that we're talking about. Like our audience knows what we're saying. And sometimes we just take for granted that the language is the same. When we say something that, of course it's going to affect schedule, or of course, but it doesn't necessarily translate that way. So kind of taking that step back, being able to use the tool to kind of like translate that from all different points of view to the end user, I think is very, very impactful. Not just for the client, but I think also for the people who are working day to day, like you said, especially for some of our younger, our younger employees that are like, they're also just learning. So let them learn in yet another new way, because the technology is also helping us drive the analytics a little bit better than we had, because it's all in one place. So they have that mind, I think, because that's their paradigm. They grew up with a lot of technology, a lot of data, a lot of the analytics. They have it every day on so much of what they do. So if it's not in their everyday lives, I kind of feel like they feel like a little bit lost, right? How am I going to do this without, something to help me show, like the visual aid? How am I going to get that message across? And I think that, again, your tool is really great for doing that for us.
Cheers. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's funny like you're mentioning like impacting people's lives there. It's just there's one of the things that surprised us, coming from software, I'm like, building, it's all about the materials and the design and so forth, right? And like, in point of fact, that's not what shapes like the built environment. Like people shape the built environment. Small groups of people, project by project, working together in a room, trying to solve these problems. It's project by project that like the built environment gets built. And the difference in how you can run between like where it's a team that's working together, informed by data, and one where the team is questioning the data that someone's bringing forward. And technology, like if you're able to give people access to the data a little bit before the meeting, and they can get over the shock of the bad news like on their own time, you can have just a very different working environment that's a lot more fun. Like everyone tells us it's a lot more fun to build awesome stuff, with an actual team as opposed to fighting your way out of every interaction.
That's so true. And that really drives that conversation to the transparency of it all. Yeah. And, we've had projects that you just feel like you're battling every day, no matter what it is, just battling every day, whatever the reasons are. And when you come out of a job where you feel like that was a really collaborative effort, it still may have been a difficult project, but it wasn't difficult because of the battles that you were having because of emotional issues. The battles, of course, every project has its own challenges. But when you come together and you solve those problems as a team, then you come out of that, quite honestly, you build your network because you're friends for life, quite honestly, with those things. And if the tool, right, if the technology can help, let's just say, seed those conversations and seed the collaboration, then just more power to us all, right?
Yeah, we had you're asking about Milestones. We had a case study we did. It was the YouTube has a new headquarters. It went up throughout COVID, and we got to visit it. They sort of continued using Join throughout construction to communicate with the owner, and this was sort of at that time unique. And so we were spending a lot of time with them to try to understand that. But they talked about, and we wrote along. Like Join wasn't the cause of like this amazing project. Like all credit to the project team. But they talked about how from the very get-go, they had this collaborative environment. Mm-hmm. And every time they onboarded a new stakeholder, whether a design consultant or a trade partner, like they were able to bring them into that way of working. And they all like, these are like hardened construction people. And like, I swear they were tearing up, like talking about how they hoped they ever got to work on another project like this because of how the site felt every day as people came together to build this like amazing forward-looking structure. And so, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So what's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, great question. So we, the Join platform comes in two principal components, what we call Join Project, which is a lot of what we've been talking about. It's completely focused on the project experience, the owner's outcome. We've been starting to invest more in what we call Join Core, which is all about the data that comes from project usage. And so every project is shaped by a team. Every project is unique. The decisions that happen in the OAC meeting, we believe, are among the most critical and the most critical data for what's going to come out of a project. And without Join, it tends to happen in spreadsheets, emails, it gets lost. Yeah. It's this incredible shame, right? The R&D effort that goes into especially a high rise, like what's around us is at least as much as complex aerospace projects. Mm-hmm. And those come off the assembly line. This gets built once. Right. And all that effort, all that knowledge that was gained, all that education blows away in the wind. Some pieces end up locked up inside of one individual's head, but it's so hard to leverage. It's so hard to bring up junior staff members. The next project still starts from a blank sheet. Yeah. And we think with Joint Core, which gets fed data from usage by Joint Project, we have opportunities to help projects build on the shoulders of others, mm-hmm. whether it's by leveraging historical cost information, by leveraging, common substitutions that have shown up before, by leveraging the history of ideas that the team has brought forward, by leveraging, standardization in process or approach, across an entire organization. And we're really excited about that, just because it's in other industries, when you've been able to close that virtual loop, mm-hmm. coming from software development, just magic happens. And there have been there's sort of inherent challenges in construction to bringing that virtuous loop, the uniqueness of every project, the fragmented nature of every team. But we think with Joint Project in place, we get a look at solving some of those projects.
I think that's a great place to go. So so we now have this partnership with STO Building Group and Join. How do you feel that we can help shape and grow your platform?
Yeah, great. So I feel like STOBG is unique in a number of ways. One is just the nationwide scale that the group brings to the table, but then it's also the diversity of work. So we got started, I believe, first with Leighton Construction, which is a lot of ground up institutional construction. Other members of the STOBG family of companies, they do very different work, and Join gets applied to a really wide number of projects, but we definitely have sort of sectors that we do very well in and other sectors where we can do better and better in. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity with some of the companies to take Join into new sectors and refine the product and solution as necessary to deliver a ton of value to those projects as well.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it too.
Cool. Thanks
Andrew,
so much, Rob.
Thank you for joining us. Join us next time at STOBG Innovation Expo.